bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. You'd rather sell the bottle than have all the wine sitting there.
Some wines I do enjoy, I do love, or I like more than others. I was like, oh my God.
Pushing the boundaries and pushing the envelope.
Touch and smell and see the environment is where really the magic happens.
Created this guide of wines throughout Spain.
In Spain, we win one of the best books of the year. We have something very unique. I'm very lucky knowing all of these, producers. So most of the producers where I talk to them directly, and sometimes they ship me a case or two directly from Spain, and you can taste Finon Rama or Manzanilla Pasada, which are now, derivation of the basic one.
Yeah.
They will say, wow, this is so unique. The taste is so different.
That wine smoked.
Where I have delicious producers, reasonable price, good quality,
effusively passionate. You have so much passion and so much love for the producers and for wine and for what you do. Cheers. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I hear little footsteps running around the hallway still. I'm getting nervous that the door is going to fly open.
It's going to be okay. No worries.
It'll be fine. Yeah, this is what this is. It's a family show. Well, it's not a family show. We probably swear and drink too much, but that's okay. Zoltan, I'm excited to have you on the podcast. It's been a pleasure to know you in our short time of knowing each other. I really like what you're doing down there at Macarena, and I'm really excited for the future of that company and your future here with that company. But that being said, what was life before Macarena? Where did your wine journey begin and kind of bring us up to speed on today?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's more than a pleasure being here. And, as you said, knowing each other in very short time, I think we clicked because our big passion, which is wine.
Yeah.
And life was very good before Macarena. Now it's perfect. It's great.
I was nervous for a second.
No, you don't have to. Just the thing is, when you go to Barcelona and you discover your passion, which is wine, absolutely fantastic life. So the question was how it was. It was perfect. It was great because I was very lucky to meet incredibly nice people, adorable winemakers, people who's involved in the wine industry. And that, of course, gives you a lot of energy, more in a city which is so vibrant, very unique. Everybody want to be there. So life was amazing.
Yeah, good. And where did your hospitality career begin, and where did you kind of fall into the path of wine?
I was born in Romania, going back a little bit to make people understand where I'm coming from. I'm Hungarian origin, born in Romania in 89, when the Great Wall was happening in Berlin. And I was adopted when I was 20 by Barcelona. Adopted means I traveled there for holidays, and after 15 years, I was living there. An incredibly nice journey where, I started in hospitality industry because the first thing you get in the new city where you don't speak the language, you don't know anything, you are 20, you don't have experience of working, even on your curriculum, you say so many lies because you just want to get a job.
Yeah.
And I started because I was very lucky speaking other languages, right? So I started in a hotel industry, hospitality industry, where I was very lucky meeting incredibly nice people who they love the wine. So when I was 20, when I arrived to Barcelona city, I did not drink because my culture, family background, we were not a family where the wine was on the table. Some days maybe, but not quality, not the way nowadays I enjoy the wine. So with 20, I started getting in because these people, they had such a big passion for the wine. And somehow I was seeing how they enjoy the journey of opening a bottle of wine and finishing it. And they say, hey, Zoltan, you should try. And I'm like, okay, give me a sip. So sip after sip. And then I discover, I find some wines I do enjoy, I do love, or I like more than others. I was like, oh my God. And suddenly, one weekend, one of the guys, we were off, and he says, Zoltan, a winery invited me. Imagine you are 20, right? So I want people to understand when you're 20, you're such a newbie in everything. Somebody telling you, hey, Zoltan, you should come to the winery this weekend if you have nothing to do, because I was new in the city. So I did not really know people around. I was, let's say, a shy personality because you don't speak the language. Don't forget that, right?
Yep.
And I said all of this in English and say, yeah, let's go. I think it's going to be exciting to really see where the wine is born, right? I swear, Chris, was incredible because they feed me, they show me the history of the wine, I meet adorable people. This was a very tiny winery close to Barcelona city. And they were so nice people. Imagine feeding the whole team, of course, giving you all the wine you needed. And I have to say that they, of course, without controlling, because I was so excited, I had maybe a glass more than as usual. So I fell in love because I said, free of charge, they treat me nice. They open their heart, their family, their winery, because we were sitting with the whole family, right? And on the end of the day, I didn't pay anything, but I had such a big fun with all the team together. I was like, oh my God, this is the job I wanted to do. So it's somehow how started everything.
What was the name of that winery? Is it still around?
That wine, oh yes,
Okay.
they are fantastic. It's Massimo and Antonella, and they have a very unique winery called Partida Creus. These guys are making minimum intervention wines, which are born of course, in the vineyard, from the grape to the bottle. And they are incredibly nice Italian family who they moved there in this tiny village called Bonastre. And imagine, she was cooking recipes from their territory. She's making her own limoncello. She was cooking pies for us. And of course, giving these incredibly nice wines, which they are having very unique grape varieties typical for Barcelona region. So some wineries using, let's say, the international grapes, these Italian people moving to Barcelona and making their project with ancient Spanish and Catalan grape varieties.
Wow.
Very unique project.
Yeah. I almost feel like having that family aspect is kind of the thing that makes winery visits the most special. Like, we've all been to a winery where you walk in, it's a tasting room. Hey, you're this appointment. Okay, great. They pour you the wines. They kind of walk away. And even if the wines are incredible, you're like, great. And maybe that's just us because we get to drink a lot of great wine. So to us, maybe it's a little less impactful. But I think about it sometimes, and I think about like my trip to Spain in September. And I just remember like sitting down at a dinner table with the people from Rio Matos, the family from Rio Matos. And the daughter was like baking bread, and she's like 12. And it was some of the best bread I've eaten in my whole life. And they were cooking, they took old grape shoots and they were using them for fire to like roast meat. Yeah. And it's just this wonderful experience. And they were just so hospitable that, I mean, that happens here in the US, but it happens a lot less, I think, right?
Well, I have to tell you, first time I arrived to Napa Valley, everybody was, saying, Zoltan, you will see so incredible, so magical, so fantastic. I heard many, many beautiful stuff. And I agree, wine tourism here, it's something incredibly, let's say, unique as experience with what they offer to the guests, to the visitors. But somehow for us, we consider like a Disneyland for the wine industry.
Sure.
I'm saying coming from Europe, right? That's our, let's say, perception about. And once you get there, you are definitely surprised when you say you're getting into a room, which generally they call a library or their tasting room. And they have on the table 3, 4, 5 different types of menus, things, flights, then you can have on the wine. But in Spain is definitely so completely different because first of all, you get to the winery where they will show you the landscape, they will show you the vineyard, they will show you where the wine is coming from. Thing that some wineries here, of course, they show you that, but so many other wineries, you will never touch the field, the land, or to touch the vineyard, the grape. Maybe the most popular, always on the label here, you have this vineyard, you have that vineyard. But then when you go to taste in the winery or with the people from the winery, you cannot see that. So somehow was a shock for me as first impression. But I absolutely recommend everybody who can have access going to Barcelona or Spain and they want to visit wineries, please do it as an experience because it's completely different from here.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it's funny. I remember going to visit the Tokelon vineyard with Tor Kenwood. And I remember going to the vineyard and we pulled up and he's just in the back of the truck and he has a couple bottles and he goes, here's the vineyard. It's pretty boring, and you're like, it is boring. It's just flat. It's just grapes. There's no trees. I mean, there's trees on the outskirts, but it's just kind of like flat unless you know what's going on under the soil. For a general person, if you're looking at the vineyard, it just looks like straight rows. It's perfectly maintained. And I remember him saying that and thinking like, yeah, and this is where $300 bottles of Cabernet come from, right? Some of the most sought after land. And so, I remember going to Viota winery in Rioja, and the Rioja, not Alavese, but right near the meander, and the roots are old. The plants have virus, and I just like, hey, isn't this a virus? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, are these American rootstocks growing out from around the plant and consuming the plant? He's like, yep. And he's like, is that a problem? He's like, not really. The vines have been here for 110 years. They're dry farmed. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, the vineyard was so unique and so different. And the pace of life was very different. It was a lot less like polished. We were sitting at picnic tables with people in shorts and sandals, eating sandwiches and drinking incredible wine. And it wasn't like a fancy tasting room experience at all, which I loved.
Exactly. I think is where you fall in love really to this industry. The biggest problem I see in the industry here is when you go to these tasting rooms and people generally, it's very nice dressed, it's suited. You have like that feeling like you scare the people, the visitor.
A little too intimidating.
Yes, exactly. And of course, I love being nice dressed, wear the suit and everything. But at the same time, I love to go to the field, to the landscape, to the winery, to the vineyard, and be there, and get dust on my sneakers or whatever, on my shoes. Yeah. Because where the wine is born is there, right? And have that feeling, can touch and smell and see the environment is where really the magic happens, more than in a very fancy, beautiful library or wine club or, places which are very beautiful. But I don't think you really get what deeply the wine it is for us.
Unless, for example, on some Napa wineries, the wine is more a product of the winery and less a product of the place, right? When we're going like high alcohol, when we're going, lots of sugar, and when we're going like heavy new oak, I mean, in a way, the terroir is not important because you're almost not getting anything. Exactly. It's I wouldn't say it's criminal. I mean, it's a byproduct of parkerization. It's a byproduct of, the styles that we all grew to like in our youth. But it's great to see a lot of smaller wineries coming out and pushing the boundaries and pushing the envelope. And this winery in Madrid sounds super sick, the one that you went to. Like, the whole idea of like Italians making wine in Spain with ancient varieties is cool. Because when I was over there, I said, "Did you guys ever try to plant other things?" And they're like, "No, nobody would buy it." And I was like, "Oh, that sucks,"
It's complicated as well, as you say, because some wineries, of course, if they don't have the right people to marketing their wines, their target, they don't know.
Right.
Absolutely. It's complicated when you want to do something unique, something very different, what the people is used to. It's true you have a market where the people will buy, so they will go just with those things they know absolutely they can sell. But then you have very unique people, which we love, I think, and which really appreciate much more than that, where you really find something so unique as different grape varieties, different making methods, the techniques they use, or the biodynamic farming, which, it's a totally huge topic and I think very unique nowadays, because you were talking about the barrels, the new oak and all of this, which it's a style which some people grow up
or
with. Or
acidification in some cases.
Which they love those tastes and it's fantastic. But after we drinking so much wine, luckily have access to so many wines, absolutely you can develop a taste, which you say, well, that's okay for some occasions, but then I have my own taste. I have my own style of wines, which I enjoy much more.
Yeah. We could go on in this for days. We went on a tangent. I'm sorry. So where we left off, you were 20, you were working in a restaurant, you had started tasting wine, you went to this beautiful winery, and you kind of had like this aha moment of like, this is the job that I want. After that, did you stay at the same restaurant? Did you try to work your way up? Did you try to pursue, court? Did you try to pursue any certifications? I mean, where did you go in that fork in the road?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing was right away when we were, working the first year of this restaurant with this team, the manager said, "Hey, Zoltan, if you'd like to stay with us more, if you like to continue this job, you should know about some wine, you should educate yourself." He recommended me some courses, that time WSET, which nowadays I think it's an incredibly beautiful program worldwide. People know and understand the wines much better with this. I started level 1, level 2, then level 3. And, from there on, I started with other very typical, let's say, education in Catalonia, in the region where I was living, close to Barcelona city. And I went to Vilafranca, which is a very huge wine region. Then there is some schools, and then you meet incredible people like Ferran Centellas. He was a sommelier of El Bulli, incredible restaurant 2 hours from Barcelona, driving north. I guess everybody who really loves, food and wine, they know about these unique restaurants. And meeting these people, they talking with the passion about what they're doing. I was, receiving all of that information and seeing their eyes, that shiny, brilliant look at when you talk to them. And I said, I want to be like them. I want to, continue educating myself. And then, of course, I did different educator programs on sherry, on cava, which is the Catalan sparkling, which is fantastic, Rioja. So slowly, each wine region in Spain, which they offer an educator programs to become an educator, knowing their landscape better, the wineries, the wine regions, the differences between. Because Spain, I will say not everybody, but most of the people somehow, they have an education, a minimum education about wine, because they're drinking wine.
They grew up with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's part of the Mediterranean culture, right? Drinking wine in moderation, it's something which there the people enjoy a lot, right? I can tell you there you drink wine every day. And everything is fine. Everything is okay because you drink the wine as the same as you eat your chicken salad, your, let's say, soup, or you have your steak. You will order a glass of wine, or you will have at home a bottle of wine, which you share with your family, dinner time. But it's a glass or 2 glasses, which makes you happy. So that, bringing to the industry where I was working and having access to brilliant and very beautiful wines, of course, that passion from the owners, from the management team, coming to me, they said, Zoltan, you should do that. And they offered me the opportunity to do it. I was like so happy. And of course I took it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And did you stay at that restaurant for a long time or?
We stayed there because that time, 2010, when I arrived to Spain, after every year, the company, they somehow didn't want to make you a full-time contract. Right? Spain was in a very complicated time there. Imagine 2010 was before 2008, where you have a big crisis, this and that. So some people lose their jobs, some people had to close their restaurants, industry, blah, 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 had a complicated moment at that time. So after every year, they were like, hey, you leave 6 months and then you come back, because they could contract, was, trick they were doing that time there. So totally, I was working at that hotel 2 years and a half.
Yeah.
Right, between different moments. But after that, luckily, I meet incredibly nice people, where I was working in restaurants like Bardot, which now is closed because the owner died. It was very sad. But a very, very big restaurant on wine, where in the city, everybody wanted to be there.
The place, yeah.
Yes, was a place. And then I was very lucky to work in a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant, which is called Hermanos Torres, 2 twin brothers in Barcelona city. Very incredible place, where I was part of the sommelier team, like 2 years and a half, COVID in the middle. And then I was very happy to manage a restaurant in Barcelona city, which was 1 Michelin-star rated, of a very unique gentleman called Martin Berasategui. He had totally 12 Michelin-star in Spain. And then nowadays, I think he has only 11. Some of their projects, they closed. And, he just dividing a little bit his time. He's like, growing.
There's only so much you can do.
Yeah. But, I was very lucky meeting incredibly people and being in very, very beautiful project where I had access to the most incredibly wine list, wine makers, having there in the restaurant or visiting them. And that's finally, it's a knowledge. And between, I was very happy because being, let's say, a person who I love the people, I love to socialize. Social media, of course, helps us a lot as well, to nowadays show our job.
Gets us out there, yeah.
I met a lot of people, so they invited me to judge wine in Spain, in different wine regions, different appellation, different contests. And then I was very happy because internationally I could go to judge wine in Portugal, to judge wine in Czech Republic, to attend contests like Concours Mondial of Brussels. Then in Berlin, I was very happy going so many years to judge wine in Berlin Wine Trophy, which is an incredibly beautiful wine contest. During 10 days, you are there with people worldwide, where you met a lot of people and you taste between 40 and 60 wines every day. These people in Germany doing an incredibly good job. Some of the years they have summer program and winter program. And some of the years they get like 14,000 wines. Imagine. So business-wise is incredible, but on the same time, as experience going there was brilliant. So luckily, having all of that access to wine, your mind is opening and you say, wow.
You just keep going.
Yes, you have to.
Yeah.
Because this industry, as you know, every year it's new wine.
Oh,
every
things
year
evolve.
Is new vintage.
There's new crews, there's new this, there's new that, there's new grapes being discovered, there's new farming practices. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, nobody gave a shit about biodynamics. I'm happy people do now, but and I was also in Texas. In Texas, nobody cared. It wasn't a thing. Nobody even talked about that. You know what I mean? So, the world evolves rapidly. One of the things that people talk about a lot, they talk about like aha moments in wine. And it sounds like it was mostly at this winery in Madrid, outside of Madrid. Was there a particular wine throughout your career that like really sunk you, that really just like got into your heart, that was the wine that you think about still today? I know some people don't have it. I don't have one. I have a cheap Chianti that was the first wine I liked, but is there things that kind of like still resonate with you today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course I have. Of course I have many wines related to many impressive moments in my life, right? But I can tell you like Grenache grape in the region of Catalonia, which is one of the, let's say, most popular grape variety there, even if it's white or red, or there in Monsanto region, it's an appellation, which is a hairy Grenache called Garnacha Peluda.
Peluda, yeah.
If you ever had, it's a very unique touch on your palate. So this grape variety, the Grenache itself, definitely I can tell you many moments and many wines particular, but the grape variety itself, I'm always happy to taste. That's so cool. If you give me Grenache, definitely you can make me fall in love. And if you give me some Riesling, I will say are those moments where definitely I can tell you having very unique Rieslings where definitely those moments I will never forget.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then you went on to become this wine judge, right? And you were traveling throughout Europe and you were judging different wines. There's a point where you came along with 4 or 5 other somms and you got together and you've created this guide of wines throughout Spain. Can you elaborate on that and kind of, I guess, how that got started and the amount of work that went into something like that? Because we don't really have anything like that here in the U.S. I mean, we have Parker, we have Enthusiast, we have Vinous. Like we have these larger bodies that judge wine on point systems, but how do you and these other somms get together and create this thing?
This is a very unique project. Writing, of course, is another of my passion because I always say wine helped me write, right? Nowadays, so many people write with ChatGPT, with the AI. But back in time, when we started this project, is a very big newspaper in the region of Catalonia called La Vanguardia. These guys called, of course, the director of this wine guide called the 100 Best Wine of the Year. You have to think we are 6 people writing on this. And luckily I got in touch with him because previous of this wine guide, I published another book, right? The English version is called Wine Queens. It's a book about 57 women of the wine industry in Spain. Female spirits, wine, where the female, let's say, figure, this personality behind of the winery and the wine itself creates something very unique. All of these projects started 2017, all before Me Too or before the big female movements, right? And
you weren't doing it just to ride the bandwagon.
Of course, it was all before that. And that's why it was such a huge thing. In Spain, we won one of the best books of the year. And then we presented 2 Gourmand Awards, which is, let's say, like Oscar of the wine books and of the books in general, right? Because you have different categories. And that year, Gourmand Awards, when I sell the book to see them and, to evaluate if this can win a prize or something, we had 7,200 books worldwide. And in my category, drinks writing, the book was the second best of the world.
Wow.
Yes, it was something very big for a young author being outside of Spain and writing about Spanish wines, but with female character, where I was very lucky to meet these incredibly lovely and adorable females from very young person to very old person. And during this book, the publisher said, Zoltan, people love your books, the way how you write with this touch, with this very intense and deep personality, because I was writing about wines like let's say for dummies, right? Where everybody could understand. Wasn't just for professionals or wasn't just for the people who work for these wineries. Was a wine book about everybody who like pictures, everybody who want to discover something new. They can have access and they can enjoy a very short read, right? So starting that project, after the second project was this wine guide where we were judging, giving points as well. Let's say the big personalities they do, as you just mentioned before. But in a very tiny, discreet way. And we were very lucky because they make, in one weekend, they sold 6,000 books, which is big because, nowadays nobody really buy a book. We don't have spaces to keep in our shelters.
I guess it would all be downloads or something, right?
Yes. Yeah. So many people nowadays ask you for the online version, but we are so romantic. We don't want to do online version. We like the smell of reading a new book. We want that touching and, just putting somewhere and remembering the page or color, the lines which you really love about. And I think the points are less important for us. Sometimes people have it like a guide, right? But for us, it's what is the experience that wine gives us on that moment we try it.
Yeah. And I think too, by creating a list of like 100 top, but also giving them a score, it doesn't matter where they are. They're in the 100 top, right? So you could score 195 and 196 and there's not going to be like, nobody's going to disagree because they're all in the 100 top, right?
Absolutely.
So it feels a little bit more kind of lifting up the producers versus like making them fight each other,
I will tell you something. In Spain, except some people which they can fight between them, but generally they will share that passion. I mean, I promise you, sometimes you will go to a wine region, let's say Priorat, very well. Sometimes the people will tell you, let's say you visit a winery and then you ask him or her, hey, which is other project which you recommend? And I promise you, people will share that experience with you because they will say, more you will know about the region, more you will go there and see the landscape, more you fall in love with the wines from the region, you can become one of their, person in the US or from where you're visiting because they need somebody who can really appreciate their wines, but then they need, those people who can become their ambassadors. And they will definitely recommend somebody who they trust, except they will say, oh, don't go this place, don't go that place, don't visit this guy. That's bullshit. That's terrible when I see. And I'm not going to believe on those people.
Right.
Plus for me, discover like a red flag from this winemaker if he talks bad about
other people.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Instead of picking other people that they love and they believe in and bringing them up, they're pushing others down, which is, I agree, is a little bit of a red flag, right? Because it's like, I could understand saying like, I went and I had like a not great time, but if you're like, don't go there, that's feels a little more pointed. And you've done that guide now you did that guide for 6 years?
This year, in 2024, 25, yes, we did the 5th. So started with the COVID, let's say.
Yeah.
So if 5th on the market already, the edition number 5, and in September we will start working on the wines of 2026, which is going to be the 6th edition. Yes.
Got it.
Luckily, I can from California still writing, because we do that online. And the thing is, the good thing what we will do once in a while I go back to Spain, I'm very happy because they already know I'm here and we can taste together. In the moment I will be visiting there. So I still luckily can go there. If I rise a moment when for some reason I cannot go back when they taste all of these wines which they receive, which every year is more and more because as I told you, this newspaper they do every day because it's daily newspaper. They have nearly 2 million printed plus the online version, which I guess more and more they are getting very popular.
Wow.
But the guide is sold very fast because, luckily it's a good marketing behind. They have a huge potential on, selling it and do it. And that's very beneficial for the industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the more content that you can put out, the better, right? And especially for smaller regions like Priorat, like you're saying, they want to treat you well and they want to share their passion about their friends because they know that that's going to carry forth and you're going to be able to carry that with you. I mean, obviously inside, but you'll carry that passion forward. And And I think we're kind of getting to this weird point in our industry where so much is becoming social media, but so many regions could really use it, right? Like think about if there was somebody that lived in Priorat. I mean, maybe there are, maybe you know them. Maybe there's somebody that lives in Priorat that records things and posts things about soil composition, rain, you know, what's happening with the environment over there. You know, here's my neighbor, meet my neighbor. Like you would have a place to go to access that information that didn't require, you know, a trip abroad, especially when, you know, our international relationships aren't as good as they probably could be. You know, the tickets get a little more expensive and the trip becomes a little more challenging. So I love this guide. I think it's great. And I think we could learn a lot from that because again, like aside from the big guys, there's not really anybody doing that out here, you know? So you've come to the US now. You came over specifically for the position at Macarena, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And Macarena, if you could give us a little background on it, if I'm not mistaken, it's a kind of a splinter of Teleferique in a way. It's like a similar model. Is that what I understand?
Well, I arrived here 3 months ago, exactly, for this project called Macarena, which is in Palo Alto, 420 Ramona Street. And David and Ellie, wife, husband, they were working for Teleferique before.
Got it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they decided one day, like, hey, we should do our own project where they were working, of course, in the city, in the region, so many years, you know, managing restaurants, different projects. And suddenly they said, hey, we should do our own business because we are good at, we know how this industry works. They have the money, they have, you know, the investors, and they started Macarena. Awesome. And we opened on 28th of October, which luckily was an incredible grand opening. And until now, we are very lucky being, you know, most of the nights fully booked. And the community, the people, the neighbors, Palo Alto received us with a lot of love. And they, of course, did an incredible job as well, which they changed, you know, the location, who we are, where we do. The management, we came from Spain. Chefs are coming from Spain. One is an owner in Barcelona of 2 restaurants. Tony, he's one of the owner, and the chef, he worked in a Michelin-starred rated culinary school in Barcelona city called Hoffman. Tony was during 8 years the professor of the pastry section there.
Sick.
Yeah. And he left everything behind and he put all the energy on Macarena now. And the other chef, who's the paella guy, because, you know, we are doing incredibly delicious paella, like Valencia style or Catalunya style. We have, in this case, Sergio Box. Is a very known paella person in Spain. Really, is not a joke, because he owned with his family 25 years La Perla in Javea. That's very close to Alicante, Valencia.
Right. Yeah, I think I went there.
Yeah. Well, incredibly nice place.
Ridiculous.
Because definitely it's the paella place, right? So our paellas in Macarena will be definitely the most authentic with local products here from the region. So yeah, Macarena, it's, you know, not only the famous song which everybody knows. I think it's a very interesting name, and definitely Ellie, she created the CMO, all the strategy. She did an incredibly job, because I can tell you, like, people automatically keep the name on his mind. Right? And that's something super strong. I think naming on a brand is something very unique, very hard decision, which one you do, what to do. But very different concept from Teleferique, as you have in the city 5 Japanese restaurants. You can have 2 Spanish, the same as you have 10 Chinese restaurants. You know, everybody will do his own way, his own cuisine, his own recipes. And I think we are totally different from these adorable people. And we're trying to do our own way, where we have an 80% of Spanish list. And then we have a 20% of American tiny producers.
International.
People, people, we have to have them there, you know, to show them love, respect, and to show them, like, hey, there is an incredibly beautiful restaurant, Spanish food, Spanish roots, fine food, where you can enjoy your American wines from the region. Santa Cruz, Los Gatos, Napa Valley, of course, Sonoma.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point that you bring up, right? It's like Spain is big enough and diverse enough culinarily that there can be more restaurants that don't all do the same thing, right? And I don't know, it's great to see Macarena open, because there was a long time in San Francisco where there was not a lot of Spanish restaurants, right? Like there just wasn't a lot of things. And obviously you're not in San Francisco, not yet. But there wasn't a lot. And we've seen kind of a fall off of like French restaurants, and they're opening now, like Cash and Bandelier are all opening, and it's all getting a little bit bigger. And so it's great. Because for a long time I was just looking around and it was just like California cuisine, California cuisine, California cuisine. And I'm like, that's great. And I like it, but I want to discover something new, or when I go to a new place, you go to Spain, you try something, you come back over to the US and like, you can't order it anywhere. And it's kind of like, I wish I had more options. So I'm happy that you guys are here.
Well, we are happy as well. As I told you, the community accept us a lot, but because, as you said, people needed something new and quality, right? Because sometimes you have options, but each person has his own taste, his own quality level, right? And I think people is very happy on Macarena because they have a very beautiful restaurant. They have Spanish roots, fine food. You have that grandmother's kitchen, where we base a little bit. Macarena, as I told you, can be the grandmother, can be your mother, your sister.
Yeah.
It's very common, like in Spain, you have huge houses where that person was in the kitchen cooking the whole day. And we have those recipes like the meatballs, we make a big fish, which we put for 2-3% to share. Awesome. You have, of course, a paella for share, but you have then the grilled squid. You have very typical dishes, which we bring to Palo Alto and to the Bay Area, which people can enjoy for reasonable price. That's another point in our restaurant, because we don't want to create something inaccessible for the major or the majority of the people living there, right? Even if sometimes people say, oh, but you don't have problems with the money in Palo Alto. But people is not stupid. People knows what they spend and they know the quality. Yeah. And I think that's one of our big goals in Macarena. People knows, like, you have a decent wine list where the people buy the wine. Yeah. And one of the things somebody told me a few nights ago, like, Zoltan, you know what? I'm surprised how many bottles I see on the table. I say, why? Because it's true. US, it's a cocktail person, right? Everybody, or it's very common before dinner or during dinner, you have your whiskey, your cocktails,
beers.
But in Macarena, of course, absolutely beer. In Macarena, you see people having wine, people having cava, people having their, different bottles, different vintages. And that's something very surprising for us, but not for me personally, because I think when you have a decent wine list where you have very unique and very special producers, not the average which everybody can find them, let's say in stores, in restaurants, or other, let's say, places, right? We have something very unique. I'm very lucky knowing all of these, producers. So most of the producers where I talk to them directly, and sometimes they ship me a case or two directly from Spain, which, yes, it's expensive, but on the same time, I will keep it a reasonable price on the list. Yeah. Can people have access to
sell it? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And that's, let's say, one of our strengths. And I will say that's why the people drink so much wine in Macarena.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I went for like a happy hour, and I was like going to get a glass of wine. And then I saw a bottle of Cease for $80 or something on the menu. And I was just like, I'm not going to pass up on this, because anywhere else I would go, that'd be $120, $150. And most of the time people are getting 3 bottles to 6 bottles. So they're willing to mark it up even higher because they just want it to be on the menu. They want it kind of for the look, versus actually selling it. But that's one of the things I learned early on from John Lancaster at Boulevard. Bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. You'd rather sell the bottle than have all the wine sitting there. If you have all the wine sitting there and you're not selling it, it's not doing anybody any good. It doesn't help the importers. It doesn't help the wineries. It doesn't help the sales reps. It doesn't help the restaurant. It doesn't help anybody. So pricing things is, especially in today's economy, I think is helpful. And with apps like Vivino, people can look things up now. And even if I don't know anything about a wine from Spain, I can Vivino it and say, oh, well, that's, I saw this wine and you're charging 80 and it's a $15 bottle retail, and then the question kind of comes up. So it's amazing that you guys are being fair with that and your food pricing and everything as well.
Yeah, I think we are very lucky. The team, as I told you, the ownership, they have it perfectly, the target, the strategy, and, they did this all of their lives. And they needed a GM. And I was ready for a change, after being 15 years in Spain, working with the best chefs, Michelin-star restaurants, which, Michelin stars in Europe are here compared to the level in the US. No offense, right? Nope. I respect all because they know their job, but definitely I have to tell you the standard in Europe are very high. Plus when you work for Martin Berasategui, which I was telling you before, is the gentleman with most of the Michelin star in Spain. Right. So if somebody's targeted there, it's definitely Martin because, all the cameras, everything is on him. So we had to do every day like a final Champions League match.
Perfect.
So you couldn't do any mistakes because people was waiting maybe the whole year you can have dinner or lunch in your restaurant. So, we had a lot of stress, but luckily I did it. But then I was ready for a change. And luckily Macarena was this opportunity and I took it. After 5 minutes they offered me because they are incredible people who we think together. And the good thing is we opened a business which we sell food as a restaurant or wine.
Right.
So first of all, we created a business, and that's, I think, something which makes the difference at this place.
And there's another component that I really enjoy that I think is also highly unique. And maybe I don't understand it completely. You have a jamon cart and you go carve it tableside, and not only that, but you have a particular person who's specialized in that. Is that?
Exactly. Yeah. It's my colleague. Well, in this case, now we have two. I have to tell you because, when you go to the Spanish restaurants, as you say, around the US, you have many and very good, incredibly beautiful restaurants where they sell definitely authentic Spanish food. But in most of them, the leg of the ham is not there, right? You can have the ham
just send it out to the table.
A machine, bring it up automatically after 5 minutes, you have it. But sometimes they keep it in fridges. So the temperature is not a real one. And it's not the same when you handcraft it. Right. It's true nowadays because we, let's say, have a busy evenings generally. We cannot go around the tables anymore. But it's always Michelin.
Carved
She's coming
order.
from the Basque Country, exactly. And then we have another lady. She's adorable. Just came from Valencia as well. And we have her there, no? In any minute, they are cutting all of this because I swear some busy nights we can sell a full leg. So you have around 42 plates delivered in one night. Imagine their hand, their muscles, which are so complicated because during 6 hours, the only thing they do, they just cutting ham.
Jesus.
That's on the price as well, very expensive.
Right.
But on the same time, you have to think, bring this ham on and bring the full leg to the restaurant. It's very expensive as well. But we are there, as I told you, if we want to do something authentic, something original, and this way, as we do it in Spain, it's handcrafted.
Right.
The taste is different, the flavor, the temperature, because you have that jamon in the restaurant, and that makes the point. And I promise you, when you taste that, which you already did, but when the people who never had the opportunity to visit Spain, and they compare it to other Spanish restaurants, which they, had the experience to have it in the country, they will say, Zoltan, this is so different. And I say, well, that's how we do in Spain.
Yeah. That's, it feels like this handcrafted is something that kind of really resonates with you as a whole, right? Because we're talking about this guide and you guys like to print it because you like the feel, you like the smell. Wine, you're talking about the vineyard, even all the way down to the jamon or the Iberico, right? Like talking about doing it per order, doing it, by hand. Do you feel like since you've gotten to California and you've been tasting a lot of wines, probably many of them, I'm sure many of them that you've tasted have been much more lower intervention, but most of them are probably more traditional production styles. Do you find yourself gravitating at all towards kind of like the more classic California style wines, or do you still you appreciate those for what they are, but you still kind of gravitate towards
me personally? Of course, when, I had the opportunity coming here, I went to the big wineries, as everybody knows, or the ones we have them in Europe, right? Harlan Estate, you go to Opus One, you visit, for example, the Montebello Vineyard, which I think everybody have it in their mind, like one of the biggest, one of the greatest, right? From Rich. So those wines are fantastic. As you said, I respect them. I definitely understand they are there and made the, California known as a wine region. But then personally, I enjoy more smaller wineries, more handcrafted, where I can know the winemaker. I can get in touch, for example, with the people who they do it, and I can luckily visit them, and they give me a little bit more of love, you know, that love which I need, because being here alone, my days off, what I do is visiting vineyards, and it's the only way I can learn about, and then get in contact with the Somm community or the wine professional community, and that's something very unique, because it's where I'm happy, where I can relax after 5 days of, you know, being very intense at work, and with a lot of problems, with a lot of things going on, which are challenging. But on the same time, you need to understand the people here in the country, right? Once you live here, it's totally different when you visit. But then I enjoy those tiny vineyards, tiny wineries, the small boxes, the small cases where you say, Zoltan, I have a little bit of this Mourvedre, I have a little bit of this Sin Salt, I have a little bit of this, you know, very unique Spanish variety, which we just planted here. And I enjoy more that as a professional.
Right. Yeah. It seems like, and you know, I'm sure working in a 3-star, you got to taste plenty of amazing things, but it seems like since you've been here, you've been tasting like a lot of like crazy shit. Even to, I don't even want to put it like this. You think about a place like Macarena, right? And you keep talking about affordability factor, right? By no means do I think like going out to eat in restaurants is not cheap anymore. It's just not, right? So you're not at all a cheap restaurant. But some of the wines that you're tasting are wines that you would see in those 3-star restaurants. You know, you're tasting, you know, DRC, you're tasting old bottles of all kinds of things. I mean, like, do you feel like the exposure that you're having here is more, less, or just kind of different in comparison to back in Spain?
I will say I have more access to this very expensive wine, as you said, like DRC. Of course, the other day we were lucky tasting many and different vintages, and because in the region you have a lot of collectors, right? And those people, they needed until now to find their wine restaurants where they bring the wine, and most of them they say, "Oh, but how many I can bring? After how many do you charge me?" And then like, come on, my business is not to charge you $40 for, you know, a corkage. Like, come on, you're bringing a Opus One, I don't know, 89, 90, very old vintages, or DRC, or many other labels, Spanish Tondonias, which I had very, very, you know, big opportunity last week to taste some wine from the 60s, from the 70s, which the people have it here. And I say, I'm not going to charge you for this. You just bring your wine, bring your friends. And I'm so honored and I'm so lucky for these people sharing and having that wine in their mind when they come to Macarena. You know, my business is not to sell them, you know, or charge them that corkage.
An imaginary $30, $40 corkage.
Come on. But that way they will bring 3, 4, 5 bottles, and they pop up, and sometimes they don't finish those because, you know, you have to drink in moderation. And I'm very lucky to taste that, you know, and I'm like creating a community in the restaurant where the people, you can see 2-3 tables some nights where everybody drinks their wines and bring their, you know, their glasses, because they have their own glasses they love. Because sometimes in a restaurant like ours, I don't have so many options for the moment for the glasses.
You can't put a Zoltan on every table.
No, I wish I can have Zalto or Riedel or, you know, fantastic Glasswin, which are incredible, or the ones we drink now here, this incredible Gabriel glass, which I wish, but, you know, sometimes you cannot. Plus, because you have a big volume and, you know, these glasses sometimes are so delicate. But we are very lucky we can share this wine. So I think, answering your question, here I have huge opportunity to taste very unique things back there as well, because, you know, in 3 Michelin-star, you pop up the greatest champagnes, the greatest, you know, unique vintages.
And you're already in Europe, so maybe it's a little more easy for access. Easier.
But here, what is very easy to have access to incredibly good California wines.
Yeah, I was lucky enough on Saturday. I drank, I'll show you a picture afterwards, but it was like mid 70s Lopez de Heredia, when they used to just put 6 años on the back, and they wouldn't even put vintages. And I was thinking of you, and if it would have held on, I would have brought it today. But as I'm sure you've already been able to tell, this is not Lopez de Heredia from the 70s.
Well, I wish.
Well, that'd be great. Yeah, I mean, I would have a little more money than I actually do, but what are you doing? One of the other things that you guys are really kind of diving into at Macarena that I wanted to highlight, you know, we recently had Paul Carayas on the podcast, and Paul is a certified Madeira specialist, a certified Madeira educator. One of the things that you guys are diving into really heavily is the world of sherry, and the versatility of sherry with cuisine, obviously. But how many sherries do you plan on having by the glass, and how far do you anticipate taking that sherry program?
Well, as a sherry educator myself, I love sherry. I've been there so many times. And at Macarena, one of the things are definitely the sherry on the list right now. Open by the glass, we have a 6 between Finos, Manzanilla, Montillado, Palo Cortado, Oloroso. I have some dessert wine as well, the cream, or the Pedro Ximénez, the very old sherry. And all of this I offer by glass. Why? Because I'm very lucky. You have that people who come into your restaurant and they are, curious about. Some people, they never had experience on tasting them. And some people, they really think, oh, this is for old people. My grandmother used to drink this and that. But then when you dig in a little bit in 2-3 minutes, in 5 questions with this person, and you somehow get his or her taste, you know what you serve him or her, they will say, Zoltan, I never experienced this. I love it. So that's why I always have this 6 open. And some of them, I have them in Magnum.
Right.
Size matters.
Yeah.
I always say, nobody wants a small glass of wine,
Yeah.
right? So you have to keep that in mind when somebody arrives with a bottle of Amontillado, which I just opened from Bodegas Tradición. It's a very old sherry, minimum 20 years aged.
Wow.
And you get it and you fill it in Macarena for $25 a glass, which I think is more than correct. For a sherry, minimum is 20 years. In Magnum, like people will be, Zoltan, this is so unique. And then you will have the meatballs next by, or you will have the jamon, of course, or the ribeye, which we serve, because sometimes people don't find the right moment or the right food to enjoy this type of wines.
Right.
And that's, I think, the challenge here, because having a Fino or a Manzanilla with a jamon as a starter, as an aperitivo. The other day came in the winemaker of Tablas Creek, an adorable guy. And I asked him, hey, would you like to start with the sherry? And he was like, you know what, Zoltan? I never been friend with the sherry. I swear, he loved the sherry I poured him. And he said, you know what, Zoltan? I'll be back because now I want to dig in more.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I can drink sherry on its own, but a lot of times American consumers are just drinking wine. It's not always with food, right? And that's one of the things that we see when we think about American wine. You like to eat your wine, not drink it, right? Because usually it's so much bigger because you're not having a meal along with it. But I mean, sherry and food is just such a great pairing, and I don't know. I mean, I feel lucky if I'm at the house and I have a bottle open, I'll pour myself a glass and I'll have a couple sips, and then Bianca's like, what are you doing? And I'm like rifling through the fridge, just trying to find things to eat, bread or meat or cheese or whatever, just because I want something else, because it's just so great to see how wine evolves like that. And your hope is to expand the sherry selection. Is that still the case? I know for a while you were talking about kind of maybe trying to grow that program.
So we have opened, as I told you, 6 right now, but fully what I have in sherry are 15 different types of producers, which I think for, a tiny restaurant, I think it's a very decent amount. And you can taste Finon Rama or Manzanilla Pasada, which are now, derivation of the basic ones, which people here never heard about, except professionals, of course. But then when you explain to the people, because it's unfiltered or, they will say, wow, this is so unique. The taste is so different. And luckily having, these very unique producers, as I can have Lustau, or you can have, the people from Bodegas Tradición, or having wines from Montilla Moriles, because most of people only know Jerez, the sherry region, but then you have Montilla Moriles.
Having Alvear or...
Having something from the Alvear, or having something from one of the most incredible winery as Toro Albalá, which I will tell you here on the podcast, because I'm more than happy to share with. I am very happy to have very soon a barrel from Alvear. I will have, of course, a smaller barrel, which they're creating for me, and I will pour directly the wine from the barrel. That's going to be a sensation for the people here, because nobody do that. And what's more traditional, they're serving directly and pouring the wine from the barrel at your table.
That's very cool. Yeah, I'm very excited for that. It's great to see your passion. And, I started with the sorting table in February. and I've really enjoyed it. And a lot of the producers I knew because my wife sells a lot of the other things through Vinifera, but the Spanish side of things I never really had a lot of exposure towards. So it was great. You were one of the first accounts that I had reach out and specifically say, like, I want to taste this wine, I want to bring it in. And so coming in and hearing your passion about Torre, or more specifically Josep Grau, was really fun for me because, I tried these wines. I'm like, they're great. And, I'll learn a little bit of the story, take it out, pour it for people. But everybody wants like, oh, I know this big name. Or, this is the producer to know. This is the one that all the Somms are in love with here. But, these wines just haven't had Torre and Josep Grau, they haven't had maybe the runway to take off. And so it was just awesome when our first tasting, you took pictures and you text Josep and he texts you back right away. And it was awesome to see that you had that relationship with those producers and you have that love for those producers. It makes me feel very lucky to represent those wines.
Well, I will say, of course, you have a very beautiful catalog, which of course impressed me. And because we're something which is out of, the typical,
right,
as you said, most of the Somms have here.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a big error what most of the Somms are doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying only in San Francisco, generally
yeah.
wine list, because in Spain happens a lot as well. Like if a producer received 800 points or 99 or whatever, everybody will be crazy, like get that.
Yeah.
But then I have them maybe that 5 years ago, and I'm very lucky to have a vertical tasting because that's one of the biggest things which we will slowly do at Macarena. As you know, we have only 3 months of, now history in the restaurant, but slowly my biggest thing is not to make and create a big wine list of many producers, but I prefer to have very, very important people, as you said, which for me, people should know in the region, but from them having 4, 5, 6 different vintages. Yeah. So that's, I think, makes more interesting and curious the wine list, where you say, I have 20 producers, the 20 which I think everybody should know all around Spain. It's very hard always to pick them because you will say, okay, Zoltan, but what's the criteria to pick them? Well, personally, is the people who I love. As you said, Josep Grau from Monsanto, but he has a very tiny, project in Priorat now, which is making very beautiful whites and reds. And having people never heard about Josep, but having their wines here and can introduce them. For me, what makes me happy when the bottle is finished. When you put them on a table, because from Priorat, let's say we were always talking from Priorat right now, or Rioja, people knows the big names, right? Everybody knows them and they can have them at home. But at Macarena, they will have as quality as these big names, but maybe less price, and they will enjoy more. Because, you always have that in mind, like,
and they're going to learn something.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And it's the moment when they say, oh my God, next week when I can go back to the restaurant, I will let Zoltan give me something surprisingly good and don't have to be more than $100.
Yeah.
Because the big unicorns, everybody can buy.
Well, not everybody can buy. I can't buy that shit.
Everybody somehow can get them on the list, right? But having, as you said, very tiny producers from Lanzarote, as I have from these Canarian Islands. Sometimes people just comes in and say, Zoltan, I never heard about Jumilla, or I never heard about wine regions as, things, let's say, very unique from the islands, but not only from the Canary Islands, from Ibiza, from Mallorca, where I have delicious producers, reasonable price, good quality, and very beautiful wines in the list, which people get surprised. And that's, I think, will going to make us very different.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the criminal things about selling the Jorge Ordóñez portfolio as long as I did through Chambers. All the wines were great, but like, it was so hard to sell that Malaga wine. And I'm just like, fucking why? It's so good. That the dry Muscat that they were doing from the high elevation vineyard, and it was like $13 a bottle wholesale. You could buy it on a retail shelf for $18, $19. That wine smoked. That was so good. And he had all the dessert wines that he was doing with Crocker. And it was just so cool. And additionally selling the wines of Alvear, it was so hard to sell those wines. And it was just like, try them. They're so good. But then you're met with the whole backlash of like, well, I'll put it on my list, but then it's going to be so hard for me to sell. Well, that works until a producer like Bodegas Chakra comes along and everybody has to have it. Everybody wants to have this wine and they want to sell this wine, or they just want it for their list because their friends like it, But I think that, there's so many hidden gems, and there's so many things yet to be discovered that like we're really lucky to live in the time we do, and we're lucky to have somebody like you to come over here and find those things. Because I mean, I'm sure you probably just text Josette, but like for a normal person, you would have to like contact the winery, send an email or Instagram DM, and then they have to get back to you, and they have to find the supplier, and then the supplier has to find the distributor, and then the distributor has to send you a salesperson, and it's this long process that most people don't have the time to put in that effort. So yeah, I mean, good on you for being aggressive enough to do it.
Very happy to do it, and that's because being lucky in Spain, you have access to all of these people, which are so happy to show you around and take you to the vineyard, show their family what they do and their passion. I think that makes Macarena different as well. Myself, because I'm representing Macarena, this beautiful restaurant in Palo Alto, which makes different the wine list as well, right? Where you will find all of these people, and automatically yesterday I was happy to sell a Brisat. Brisat is like an orange wine, skin content,
you don't know
right?
this.
And in Priorat is very, very popular making method, right? And three ladies were sitting on the bar, very beautiful dressed, with this Versace Dior, which you will never thought about they will want skin contact. But after showing them my book, which you can find my book on the restaurant and you can buy it, and I was explaining the history of the producer, the wine they were drinking. So I was explaining about Sara Perez of Mas Martinet and Venus. She has an incredibly beautiful vineyard and family history, which I suggest people dig in, because she's making, in this case, a Brisat, right? As orange wine there back in Spain. So they were so surprised about how clean and how delicious was this wine, because sometimes, the natural wine industry, or how the people call it, because natural wine is such a hard topic as well to explain to people what it is. So I explain easily, like, Sara Perez, she's a hippie living in Priorat, but she taking shower. So they were like laughing because like, oh my God, I can feel this rustic style of wine, but it's so clean, it smells so good, it's so tasty, it's so elegant, it's so rich, right? And they were like, we never heard about this wine or the method, how it's made. But then these beautiful ladies were surprised because I explained it and I show them who it is. And I say, hey, let's take a picture, you with the bottle and my book, and we sell it to Sarah. And they say, Zoltan, are you sure you want to do it? And after 5 minutes, we get an answer of Sarah like, Zoltan, I love you. Thank you for being the ambassador, not only of my wines, because I explain more than those wines, right? It's the region of Catalonia or Spain, call it how you want, because finally we represent those people. But why we do that? Because we love them and we definitely trust their quality. And I think people here should know something such a unique project as we have on the list.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I mean, I remember working at Boulevard, and I remember people saying like, I would sell the Remy wine and I would say, well, have you had it in a few years? It's not as big as it used to be. And people would try it and they'd go like, oh, it's really good. And I'd go like, oh, I'll tell David you said that you're enjoying it. And people would always go, but I would never text David Remy, obviously. So that's so cool. I love that. And having the book there is like an additional tool, right? Because if you have time to spend and you have time to talk to them, you also have time to kind of show them the book, and you're really earning the trust and you're earning the reputation for yourself and for the restaurant, which I think is incredible. So how are we doing on, I know the plan is to kind of like really nail this concept down, but the eventual plan is to open a couple more locations. That
if everything goes well, and of course, this project goes up and up, which what I can see is going, because definitely, as you said, it's a unique concept for video, and the project is very different because they have a lot of soul, right? Owners are working there, the chef is there every day, who's other owner, so they put all the effort after leaving everything behind, living their dream, a dream of having something so unique as a Spanish restaurant, where they put their roots and they show what they learned in so many years of experience. The idea is to open, here in the Bay Area, some other restaurants, like Make Macarena as a brand, where we keep this essence who we are, where we touch the people. And what somehow yesterday coming from Spain, we saw like people here, they have a bubble which they don't like to be touched, they don't like to be approached. But I'm sorry, at Macarena, I just kiss to the people, I give you hugs, guys, I touch you.
We're still flinching from COVID,
yes,
I think. Yeah.
But wine, connecting people. Don't do politics, please. Do wine, drink wine, because wine is socializing, showing the roots, the history of a territory, and wines makes us getting very close to each other. And I prefer to do more wine than to do politics, right? Yeah. So wine is our common language,
right?
And I'm very lucky speaking Winese, which is, our language.
Yeah, I think that, you mentioned it earlier, one of the first things that we bonded over was the shared passion. And I just remember going in to meet you for the first time, and you just were like effusively passionate. You have so much passion and so much love for the producers and for wine and for what you do. And it's always good, it's pretty often that we work in an industry where we work alongside other people, or we work near other people that are maybe like not quite as passionate, or maybe their passion has just been, stifled a little bit. And so when you work around people, or you get to interact with people like yourself that have just this high passion, it's really easy to kind of like get energized off of that, like an alternator in a car, helping recharge the battery. You know what I mean? So I'm incredibly appreciative of your passion and your effort that you're putting in.
And you can see that on the restaurant as well, because sometimes waiters, the person who have contact with the table are always the waiters. The waiters give you the wine list and they say, the guest don't know, they just look about like, they're somehow scared to pick something. Oh, I'm not going to pick the first one because it's too cheap. I don't have money, I'm not going to pick the expensive one. But then when the server fastly realize like the guests are having a hard time, they say, hey, you know what? Let me send you the wine guy. And, I get there with this beautiful suit on, which the people automatically say, oh my God, we get the trust very easily. And I say, hey, in 3 questions, like, what are you looking for? What is the style you drink? What is your budget? Because for us, it's very important to ask. And I say, please say how much you have. If you have $50, I'm happy to give you the best wine for $50. And you can see sometimes people, they order for the server somehow the cheapest wine because they just are in a Spanish restaurant and they want to drink. But then I go to the table and say, hey, you know about this producer, why do you pick the wine? And sometimes they were like, oh, but you recommend this wine? And I say, what are you looking for? And the people suddenly trust you because they say, oh my God, this guy really know what he did.
It wasn't like they're just going to give you the bottle and say, here, take it, go away. You know?
So definitely that's one of our strengths as well at Macarena. Like when you have time, as GM, go around the tables and ask, hey, what do you feel about, what do you like, what are you looking for? And having the opportunity of myself creating the wine program, I can definitely see what the people want and what I think I can sell as the sherries for you in that time.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. We're to the point where I'll ask you, what do you think about this wine?
Well, I wanted to say, because as you see me keep drinking, I'm very surprised on the quality. I'm very happy because it has a very good acidity. And the acidity makes us want to drink more. So very good.
Good. Do you want to try to figure out what it is, or are you ready for a reveal? Like I said, the wine's not always blindable, but I always like to give the option just in case.
Well, what we somehow you can help me to say if it's new word or old word, because I always say to the people, it's very hard to get the wine itself, but as drinking so many years, you can just say if it's old word or new word, if it's Europe or let's say US in this case, or Argentina, whatever, and then you just get a grape or you get inside what are the things, makes it easy, I guess. And I will say, in this case, it's old world. At least give me that feeling.
It's old world. You got it.
Okay, me.
It's a wine that, I was going back and forth of, should I pour it? Should I not pour it? Should I do something different? And I just wanted to revisit our friend. So this is the Giuseppe Grau Pietrabona Gritaya from Priorat 2021 vintage. I'm not sure if you've had the 21.
I had the vintage,
Okay.
of course, right before I came back
Right
from
before you left. Okay.
Barcelona City.
All right.
I was having lunch with Giuseppe, as you know. He's a very cool guy, very easy to approach, and sharing wine with him. I love his project in Priora, these old vines, you know, what he has in the village of Gratayops, which is a very tiny village, 200 people living there.
Yeah.
But during harvest, of course, it's 3,000 people
Right.
working and doing, he having very tiny production on this, but very, very high quality.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know the price here in the US, but you can approach around $30.
Yeah.
I guess.
It would retail at probably 40, 45.
Okay,
Yeah.
But you know, Priora nowadays you have $200-300
Oh, yeah.
the bottle of, you know, the popular Prioras. But then you came across of this very delicious Grenache. I think it's Grenache basis, if I'm not doing wrong, which you say, wow, it's unknown producer, let's say, but I think when in a restaurant as Macarena, you can have it for this in my wine list will be with less than 100,
Right,
less
exactly.
than $100, and people will definitely get quality, will get Spanish roots, will get that fine quality type of Priora, very elegant, very delicious, and I think people will be more than happy at the end of the wine.
And pre-rot and Gratap specifically is like, usually those wines are significantly more expensive, like Mogador or something like that,
Well,
right?
you know,
Like,
the family of Pastrana, Clos de Lobac,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have Daphne Glorian there, you have very important people who are in Gratayos, but then you have this tiny project and you will say, wow, it's incredible, it's lovely, it's amazing, and quality price, give me a lot of pleasure. Definitely people will go back to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see. The one question that we're going to start asking more, and I think I know the answer because we were talking about the winery earlier that you visited outside of Madrid. What was the moment that you decided that the wine industry and the hospitality industry is like what you wanted to do? When was the moment that was your never looking back moment?
Well, one of the first years I arrived to Barcelona, and after, of course, visiting this winery, was another moment where I switched job. Okay, in this case at Bardot, and there somehow I already created friends and people in the industry know me. The wine buyers were coming in. They're specifically looking for Zoltan, asking. I was a bar manager there at that time. And the bar in Spain is totally different. The bar in the US where it's mainly cocktails.
Right.
Bars in Spain are mainly wines.
You order a drink and you get a little bite of food.
Exactly. Yes. And in Barcelona, Bardot became very, very popular. People was coming, you know, all type of industries, famous actors, famous football players. And the place was where everybody wanted to be, right? But there we had wines from $4 euros in that time until 150. So remember, we were selling a Cheval Blanc by the glass, of course, Corabin House, which is a tool which I recommend everybody to discover because it's very interesting when you don't want to open a bottle of wine and you don't want to finish it. It's a tool which, it's a gadget which I think is very interesting to discover as well. And we were using that, right? So you, depends on how much money you want to spend, you can, you know, open different types of bottle and enjoy a glass of wine. So there I was meeting incredibly nice people. And I said, look, people looking for me, they trust me, they want me to be in the industry, they love me, they show me love because coming to see you. But not only the guests, the producers, everybody. So that moment I say, you know what? I love people, I love wine, it's my passion, I love to write about. So why should I change? Get more deeply in getting educated myself, and I can be an educator as well, where finally you met such an incredibly project where you can speak about. Luckily, I was a buyer, so I could, you know, put my print on the list. Definitely, people, when they trust you, you give me that power of saying, hey, you know what? This is the industry I want to be. And I tell you one thing. Nowadays, if I'm not working in this wine industry, I will pay from my, you know, personal bucket to be in the industry because it's so incredible. You meet so lovely people. Some days you want to kill everybody, of course, but it's more, if you say we put in a balance, it's more enjoy days than terrible days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's beautiful. And do you have any closing statements? Any advice you want to offer? Anything you want to say to anybody?
I think sounds a topic which everybody will say that, but very important to drink in moderation, right? It's very important. Like, don't forget, wine has alcohol, and when it's alcohol involved, we need to, you know, always know what we are doing, and it's very important to share that passion. But then if you like something, just do it. I think it's the most important thing. If you really believe in a project, you really believe in something, I will just go straight no matter what. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I am very far away from my family. I believed in this project, who I am, where we are, what we want to create, and the whole team of this restaurant we're creating at Macarena, and the statement and everything, because they believed on me. So I believe in them. But because first of all, I believed in something we have between our hands. It's like a baby, and it's gonna be a very beautiful, kid one day, and then an adult, because it's our passion.
Yeah.
And when you follow not only your dreams, because sounds very buttery, but at the same time, I think it's very important to do what you love. And if you find your job, you love it. Finally, I don't consider myself as working, because I do my passion and I meet the people I want. I receive guests, I receive customers, I receive you guys, who's selling the wines. And then we're sharing and we're creating a beautiful community, and sharing that to the guests who they are coming and visiting us in the restaurant makes me feel, full of joy, of energy. And next day, after 12 hours, sometimes we are there many hours, even if my shift is finished, but I still want to be there because I'm enjoying what I do. So follow your passion.
I love it. That's perfect. Well, cheers.
Cheers and good success with the new season.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.